Okay, so you're here with us because you want to get smart, fast, right on the stuff that matters. Well, today's deep dive is taking a look at a part of healthcare that's seriously evolving, like at warp speed. We're talking about developing, regulatory compliance software as a medical device.
SaMD.
Exactly, SaMD, and also artificial intelligence as a medical device, or AIaMD. And to help us kind of break it all down and really understand it, we're focusing on this UK-based company that's really making a name for itself in this space. It's called Yoctobe.
Yeah, and we've got some fascinating material from Yoctobe themselves. They actually say that they're the UK's first dedicated AIMD development company. So I think what we really want to unpack with everyone today is, first of all, what exactly are we talking about when we say SaMD and AIMD? And then why is the whole regulatory aspect, all the rules and guidelines, so incredibly important, especially when we're talking about, tools that are going to be used in medicine? And then what's a company like Yoctobe actually doing, in practice to really push this whole field forward?
For sure, for sure. I mean, this is not just like some sci-fi fantasy we're talking about here. There are real rules, real standards that come into play. Our source material even points out some really important regulations like IEC 62304, that one. And then there's the European Medical Device Regulation.
MDR.
Right, MDR. So we really want to dig into those, understand why they matter, and how companies, especially like Yoctobe, are working within these rules to actually bring these really advanced software solutions into healthcare systems that affect all of us. So I guess maybe the best place to start is, just getting a handle on the basics. When we talk about SaMD and AIMD, what exactly are we picturing? What are we talking about here?
Okay, so let's try to break it down a bit. So software as a medical device, SaMD, it's basically software intended for one or more medical purposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the key here is that it's doing these things, it's achieving these purposes without being part of an actual physical piece of hardware. Like it's not built into the device itself.
So it's not like the software that's, say, controlling an MRI machine or something.
Exactly. Think more like, I don't know, an app on your phone that could, let's say, take data from a wearable sensor, like a smartwatch, and then use that data to maybe flag a potential heart problem. Or you could even think of like really sophisticated software that helps doctors analyze like really complex patient data and then use that to arrive at a diagnosis.
Okay, so it's doing the analysis, the work, kind of independently.
Yeah, you got it. So then building on that, you have artificial intelligence as a medical device, so AIaMD. And this is basically medical software, but it's using all those AI techniques, right? Like machine learning, natural language processing, anything like that to do its medical job.
Yeah.
And like you said before, the source material is very clear that Yoctobe specializes in developing both of these kinds of software.
So they're not just picking one or dabbling in both. They're going all in on both SaMD and AIMD.
Yeah, totally.
And one thing they keep emphasizing, actually, is being regulatory compliant. Now, why is that so important in this field? Why can't they just, make the cool software and call it a day?
Right, because this is where it gets really, really crucial. Like this is where the seriousness of it all comes in. We're talking about software that can directly impact people's health, right? We're talking about diagnosing illnesses, keeping track of vital signs, maybe even helping decide on treatment plans. So the fact that this software is safe and that it actually works like it's supposed to.
That's got to be the top priority.
Absolutely. So that's where the regulations come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially things like IEC 623304. That basically lays out the whole process for how you develop medical device software, like the whole life cycle from start to finish. And then you have that big one, the European Medical Device Regulation, the MDR. These are all about making absolutely sure that these products are developed and maintained to like the highest possible standards.
So no cutting corner.
No, definitely not. And these regulations, they cover everything. We're talking about how you initially design and build the software, how you test it rigorously, how you identify and manage all the possible risks, and even what you do to monitor the software after it's already out there being used. For a company like Yoctobe, working in the UK and Europe, these regulations aren't just like friendly suggestions. These are legal requirements. It's the law.
Yeah, it makes sense. The stakes are so much higher than like building a game app or something.
Right, exactly.
And in fact, our source even says that Yoctobe claims to be the UK's very first dedicated AIaMD development company. It's a pretty bold claim, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And I think it shows that they saw like the huge potential, but also the specific challenges of combining AI with medical devices very early on.
Yeah.
Like they were ahead of the curve. And they say their mission is to help all these healthcare innovators out there by actually creating those smooth, intelligent SaMD and AIMD applications.
Yeah.
So They basically want to be the go-to team for anyone who's serious about developing these medical software solutions and doing it the right way, the safe, regulated way.
And they don't shy away from the future either. They talk about a future where this type of software is integral to healthcare delivery. Like, it's a core part of how healthcare works. It really makes you think about how different healthcare could look like down the line for all of us, you know? So let's get into the specifics a bit. What are the actual services and the expertise that Yoctobe brings to the table? Like, how do they actually help make this vision of the future a reality?
Okay, well, it seems like their expertise covers pretty much the whole journey of SaMD and AIaMD development. It's not just one piece of the puzzle, you know.
They're handling the whole process.
Yeah, it looks like it. So, of course, there's the actual building of the software itself, the design, the coding. That's a given. But like we were talking about earlier, they are seriously committed to the whole regulatory compliance thing. They mention IEC 62304 and the MDR all the time. That tells me they really know these regulations inside and out. And they have all the systems in place to guide other companies through that process. Because, let's be honest, meeting all those requirements can be pretty daunting, especially for companies that are in need of this.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine trying to make sense of all those regulations and then on the top of that, actually implementing them in your software development process. That's a whole other beast, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it doesn't stop there. They also talk a lot about something they call seamless medical device and healthcare IoT integration. And this is really important because a lot of times these SaMD and AIMD applications, they need to be talking to a ton of different devices, right? They need to get data from various medical instruments, from all those wearable sensors, all that stuff that's connected to the internet, which is what we call Internet of Medical Things.
The IoT, right, for everything.
Yeah, exactly, the IoT, but specifically for healthcare. So it's the AIaMD. And Yoctobe mentions that they use what they call powerful middleware to make sure this whole data flow is secure, that it's efficient, that it's happening in real time, and like the most important thing, that it's accurate.
Yeah.
Because you can't have any glitches or mistakes when you're dealing with people's health data, right?
Of course not. So this whole idea of connecting all these different systems and devices, that's super important if we want to really unlock the potential of all this intelligent medical software, isn't it?
Totally. I mean, think of it like this. You have all these amazing pieces, right? Like you have the software, you have the devices, but they need to be able to communicate with each other perfectly. So this middleware, it's like the glue that holds everything together. It's like the translator that makes sure everyone's speaking the same language.
It's like the unsung hero behind the scenes, making sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine you have this like really smart glucose monitor, right? And it needs to send all that data to a diabetes management app so the person can track their blood sugar and all that. Or maybe you have an AI-powered diagnostic tool that needs to get imaging data from different hospitals. That middleware is what makes sure that data gets where it needs to go safely and accurately.
Yeah, it's like the plumbing that keeps the whole system flowing.
Exactly. And then Yoctobe also lists bespoke intelligent medical software solutions is something they do. So that basically means they can customize their software to fit the specific needs of different healthcare organizations, right? Like not everyone needs the exact same thing. And then finally, and this is really important too, they offer post-market surveillance and maintenance. So that means they don't just build the software and then forget about it, you know. They stick around to make sure it's working properly, that it's still safe, and that it's up to date.
Makes sense because medical software is always evolving, right? And new issues can pop up, new regulations can come out. It's not a one and done kind of thing.
Nope, not at all. It's an ongoing process.
Now, the source material also gives us a bit of a peek behind the curtain at Yoctobe itself, you know, the company and the people behind it. What did you learn about them?
Well, they basically started with this vision, right? To use intelligent software to completely change how we do healthcare. Like really revolutionize it. And they're based in Liverpool in the UK. The source also talks about one of the co-founders, Ayub Ben Zakaria. He's the principal engineer. And his background is pretty impressive, to be honest. He's got over 10 years of experience in all sorts of relevant areas. Like he's worked in industrial software engineering, he's done medical data integration, and of course AI.
Wow, so he's got the whole package.
Yeah, and get this, he's got 2 master's degrees, one in AI, of course, and then another one in financial engineering. And he's got a certificate from Harvard on top of that.
Wow. So this guy's definitely not messing around.
Not at all. It makes you realize that the company is built on some really strong foundations, both in terms of like the tech side of things and the whole healthcare industry knowledge.
Yeah, it seems like they have a really good understanding of both worlds.
Right, exactly.
Now, I noticed that on the Yoctobe website, they've got some articles with titles like Custom Healthcare Software Development, IOMT Device Management Platform, and Healthcare Legacy System Integration. Do you think these topics connect to what we've been discussing today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, those titles really show that Yoctobe is right there in the thick of things. They're not just focusing on their own little bubble. They're engaged with the big picture, with the real challenges that are happening in digital health right now. Like that first one, custom healthcare software development. Well, that's exactly what we were talking about, right? They create customized solutions to solve specific healthcare problems. And then IOMP device management platform, that's all about their expertise with integrating with all those medical devices and the IOMT, all that interconnected stuff. That title basically highlights the need for these really strong, reliable platforms to manage all these systems that are talking to each other.
It's getting pretty complex out there, huh?
Yeah, it really is. And then there's that last one, healthcare legacy system integration. That one's interesting because it points to this really common issue in healthcare where you have these new, shiny SaMD and AIaMD solutions, but they need to work with the older systems that hospitals and clinics are already using.
Yeah.
And those older systems, sometimes they're pretty outdated.
Yeah, sometimes they're ancient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the fact that Yoctobe is talking about this stuff, it tells me they're actively trying to solve these real-world integration problems. It's not just about making fancy AI algorithms. It's about making sure they can actually be used in the real world to help people.
So it's not just the tech, it's the whole ecosystem, right?
Exactly. The big picture.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. I think it's time to step back and really think about what we've learned. What would you say are the biggest takeaways from our deep dive into Yoctobe and this whole world of regulatory compliant SaMD and AIMD development?
Okay, so to sum it all up, we've learned that Yoctobe is a UK company that's really positioned itself as a leader in this field, right? They're developing SaMD and AIMD, but they're doing it in a way that's totally compliant with all the regulations. That's huge. And they're especially focused on IEC 62304 and the MDR, which is all about making sure their software is safe and effective.
Yeah, those regulations are key.
Definitely. And another big thing is that they're experts at integrating their software with all those different medical devices in the IOMT. And they use that middleware we were talking about to make sure the data flows smoothly and securely.
So for all of you listening, why should you care about all of this? What's the big takeaway for you?
What's really cool is that this whole deep dive has given us this glimpse into the future of healthcare. It's showing us how software and AI are going to play a bigger and bigger role in how we diagnose, treat, and manage health conditions. And it also highlights this really important point. There's not just about the cool technology. It's about doing it responsibly, safely, ethically.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of hype around AI in healthcare, but it's easy to forget about all the hard work and the regulations that go into making sure these technologies are actually beneficial for patients.
Right. It's about building trust because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's about making sure these tools are trustworthy and that they're actually improving people's lives.
Well, absolutely. So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question, something to think about. As we see all these incredible advancements in AI and how our medical devices are all connected, what do you see as the biggest hurdles, the toughest challenges, and also the most exciting opportunities in making sure that SaMD and AIMD are used ethically and effectively in the years to come?
It's a question worth pondering, that's for sure, because this field is evolving so quickly, and it's only going to get more complex.
Definitely something to keep in mind as we move forward. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.